A group of people wanted to belong, the door of a door, a legacy that has been passed along. And so these families began to build their dream, the sacred Jewish home of Chalutzim.
Guided by our past, we learn and teach and grow our tree of life, Tikkun Olam. We're not afraid to stand for what is right, planting the seeds to build a strong identity, loving kindness, justice, and community. I am Sinai, welcoming, loving Sinai, roots and tradition for the Jewish life's our mission, a shining light for me. That's why I'm Sinai, growing together, Sinai, found my connection. We're more than a congregation, we're a family. Standing here today, we know the journey's only just begun. Ani ve'ata, we build our future here with everyone. Join us to celebrate what's been and what will be. Together we'll make Jewish memories. I am Sinai, welcoming, loving Sinai, roots and tradition for the Jewish life's our mission, shining light for me. That's why I'm Sinai, growing together.
Hi, lay, lay, lay. Ya, lay, 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 lay. Hi, lay, lay, lay. Ya, lay, 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 lay. Hi, lay, lay, lay. Ya, lay, 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 lay. Hi, lay, 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 da, lay, da, lay, lay, da, lay, da, lay, da, ya, lay. Lay, da, lay, da, lay. Hi, lay, lay, ya, lay, 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 da, lay, da, lay, lay. Ya, da, lay, da, ya, lay, 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 da, lay, da, lay. Hi, lay, lay, lay. La, 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 lay, lay, lay. Hi, lay, lay, lay. Ya, la, lay, 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 lay. La, lay, 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 da, lay, da, ya, lay. Lay, da, lay, da, ya, lay, 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 da, lay, da, lay. Hi, lay, lay, ya, lay. Lay, da, lay, da, ya, lay, 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 da, lay, da, ya, lay. Lay, da, lay, da, lay. Ki yesh mera Shabbat el ishmereni. Ki yesh mera Shabbat el ishmereni. Oti le'ol meyad beino ubeidi. Oti le'ol meyad beino ubeidi. Yai, lay, lay, lay. Yai, lay, yai, lay, lay. Hi, lay, lay, lay. Yai, lay, 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 lay. Ya, lay, 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 da, lay, da, ya, lay. Ya, lay, da, lay, da, ya, lay. Ya, lay, da, lay, da, lay. Day, 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 ya, lay. Day, day, da, lay, da, ya, lay. Lay, lay, da, lay, da, ya, lay. Lay, lay, da, lay, da, da. Ya, lay, day, lay. Lay, 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 lay. Yai, lay, lay, lay. Ya, lay, 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 lay.
Shabbat Shalom. We are going to begin our service, page 128, Yedid Nefesh, lover of my soul, merciful God, bring your servant close to your will.
Yedid nefesh abarachamam beshuchamda el retzonah yerutzamda emboayar ishtachave el muladara yeramlo indidutam indofetsu kemoltaham yedid nefesh avarahaman beshuchamda el retzonah Yerushalayim kemoayal ishtachave kul hadara.
We turn back to page 127. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. We continue Lechado D, page 138.
Lechado D, likrat kala, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, dekabela, yailai, lechado di, likrat kala, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, dekabela.
Adonai echad, ushmo echad, v'shem hu letiferet le'elah.
Lechado di likrat kala, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, nekabela. Ay, 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 lechado di likrat kala, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, nekabela. Ay, 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 likrat Shabbat, lechu vendelcha, ki hi mekor hamveracha. Yay, yay, merosh mikedem, nesucha, samase, b'machshavat chila, together, lechado di likrat kala, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, nekabela. Ay, 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 lechado di likrat kala, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, nekabela. Ay, ay,
Hitoreri, kiva oreku miuri, uri, shir daperi, kivod Adonai, alaycha.
Lechado likrat kala, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, nekabela. Ay, 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 lechado likrat kala, yalalai, 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 bnei Shabbat, nekabela.
We rise, we turn to the door, we welcome the Shabbat bride.
בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולי, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, ילאי, אדוני לקראת קלה, ילאי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. איי, 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 לך אדוני לקראת קלה, ילאי, 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 בני שבת נקבלה.
Page 140, Mizmor Shir LeYom HaShabbat, a psalm for the Sabbath day, Psalm 92.
מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר, ביום ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. ויגיד בבוקר חסדך אמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלינה ועלי היגיון בחינוך. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ביום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני לאור עמקו. מחשבותיך מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת.
Nice to welcome Shabbat with a little ruach and none other than a melody composed and sung by our own cantor Norman Cohen Falah. So thank you. I would like to invite Carol Moss to lead us in the lighting of our candles. If you'd like to follow along, I think it's, well, you'll know the blessing.
120, I think. I think it's 120.
You want to guess what page?
I think it's 120.
120? All right, I'm going to take.
It is, yeah.
You do it. You do it, and I'll say it.
Oh, you.
Go back to me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu adlik ner Shabbat.
Amen. Page 146, we rise for Baruch Hu.
Yalalai, 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 yalalai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed.
Le'olam, le'olam,
Le'olam,
le'olam, le'olam, le'olam va'ed. Yalalai, 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 yalalai.
Let's Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
Baruch atah Adonai amari v'arabi.
Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vahed.
You may be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam V'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha, u'kashartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot beinenecha, u'chatavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha, leman tiskeru Basitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem emet. Page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Bi hambocha va'elimado Ambocha Edar Vakodesh Norat Eilot O Sefere Malchutecha Ra'uvadecha Okeayam Lifnei Moshe Ubiliam Seri Adu ve'amru Adonai Imlo Be'olam Ba'ed. Together. Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 yada da da yada da da Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 yada da lai ונאמר כי פרנה את יעקב וגיע למיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו רחיים. We try together. השכיבנו אדוני השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow and pain. Hashivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamideinu shomreinu
People of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat in every generation as a covenant for all time. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days the eternal God made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from labor and rested.
Yay, lay, 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 lay. Yay, lay, 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 lay. Yay, lay, 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 lay. Ay, lay, 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 lay. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי וביום
We rise for Amidah, page 164.
Adonai sefatai tifta ufi yagite ilatecha Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu Eloi Avoteinu ve'imoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagivor ve'anora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot ve'imaot, Umevii Geula libnei bneihem, למען שמו ואהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם וזרעת שרה. אתה גיבור עולם אדוני, בחיה כל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד האתר. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחייך הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים באמונתו, לישן יפר, בי חמוך בעל גבורות, ומיתו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
May be seated. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festivals. So it is written in your Torah, the heaven and earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant us as a heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat.
You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion.
Baruch atah Adonai, machashis shechinato b'Tzion, modim anachnu lah.
We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving.
Baruch atah Adonai, atav shimcha, ulechanei lehodo. Shalom bracha bar Israel amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom bracha bar Israel amcha, tasim leolam. Ki ata melech adon bechol hasharon. Ki ata melech adon bechol hashalom. Shalom bracha ad Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom bracha ad Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Betov einecha leba'aref et amcha Yisrael, bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום ברכה על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום ברכה על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Before we add the prayers of our hearts to the prayers of our Siddur, we take a moment to think about those of our friends and neighbors, members of our community, members of our own family who are in need of God's blessing of healing, healing of the body, healing of the spirit. On this Shabbat, we are especially thinking about Judy Agron, Adam Beaumont, Osvaldo Barraza, Shelley Blum-Claire, Elliot Citron, Kathy Duchess, Eliyahu Ben Reuven Miriam, Ilka Rock, Susan Friedman, Rita Gold, Ed Johns, Mindy Elizabeth Jones, Susan Jones, Jack Lieb, Maya Bat Devora, Joyce Riddenauer, Mark Rockfeld, Shammai Ben Michael, Shaul Ben Moshe Verivka, Shoshana Devora Bat Chava, Barry Sugar, Mark Byron Singer, Rose Singer, Stuart Singer, R.A. Tzvi Ben Sarah, Kevin Webb. Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yavarech v'Yirapeh et Cholim Kodesh Baruch Hu Yemalei Rachamim Alehem v'Hachlimam v'Larapotam v'Hachazikam v'Hachiotam v'Yishlach Bimheira Refuah Shlema, a complete healing, Refuah Nefesh, healing of the soul, Refuah Guf, healing of the body, B'toch Shar Cholei Yisrael, Hashtaba Galav Izman Kariv v'Nomar. We say, Amen. Take a moment for a silent personal prayer.
עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומה, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Years ago, on September 5th, the world was shocked when Palestinian terrorists from Fatah's terrorist organization, Black September, broke into the athletes' village at the Munich Olympics, kidnapped and ultimately murdered 11 Israeli athletes and coaches. Still today, the attack remains a dark stain on the Olympics and has settled in the collective global memory as an illustration of the horrors of terrorism. Just after 4 a.m. on September 5th, as the Israeli athletes slept, the 8 terrorists jumped over the 6-foot-high fence that encircled the Olympic Village and entered the building that contained the 5 apartments that housed the Israeli team. 2 Israelis, wrestling coach Moshe Weinberg and weightlifter Yosef Romano, are killed attempting to fight back during the initial attack as the terrorists rounded up the team members in apartments 1 and 3. 9 team members were taken hostage, while some of the others were able to escape. The terrorists demanded the release of 236 Palestinian prisoners, eventually requesting a plane to take them and the hostages to Egypt. During the botched German rescue attempt, the 9 hostages are killed along with 5 of the 8 kidnappers. 3 terrorists are captured but are released in October 1972 as part of a prisoner exchange following a Palestinian hijacking of a Lufthansa jet. It took 20 years, but justice was eventually served as all but one of the Black September Palestinian terrorists were hunted down by the Israeli Mossad. I want to share with you the words of my colleague and very dear friend, Rabbi Joshua Caruso, who is one of the rabbis at Fairmont Temple in Cleveland, the congregation to which my older brother currently belongs, and the congregation in which one of the Israeli victims, David Berger, was raised and eventually eulogized. In a classic example of Jewish geography, over the past few days, as I shared with several congregants that I would be speaking about the Munich massacre, I learned from that our own congregants, Ida Schenkel and sisters Nancy Simon and Jane Hiller, all grew up and were childhood friends of David Berger. Here's what Rabbi Caruso wrote. David Berger was smart. He excelled at Shaker Heights High School and attended both Tulane University and Columbia University, where he received his MBA and a law degree. He was passionate about wrestling and made Aliyah to Israel with the hopes to make his new country's 1972 Olympic team, and he realized that goal. David loved Israel, and when he moved to Jerusalem, he was one of the first to teach sports, and specifically weightlifting, to the disabled. His intention was to open up a law office in Israel after completing his compulsory military service, but those dreams would soon be dashed. When the terrorists broke into the Olympic Village, they took Berger and his roommates hostage. He is believed to have been beaten in order to intimidate the other hostages. After tense negotiations, the terrorists and hostages, including Berger, were transferred to a German airbase where the terrorists hoped to be flown to Egypt. In an effort to thwart that plan, German authorities engaged in a 2-hour gunfight that resulted in the hostages being killed, including Berger. When President Richard Nixon called David's father, Ben, to ask him how he could assist in such a tragic circumstance, Ben asked him to send his son's body home so that he could be given a proper funeral service and burial. Of the 11 slain Israeli Olympians, only David Berger was buried outside of the land of Israel. The David Berger National Memorial, which you see in the photo either to the side of me if you're online or behind me if you're in the sanctuary, is exhibited on the grounds of the Mandel Jewish Community Center in Cleveland, the JCC, which my own niece Emma used to work at. The memorial is made of steel and features the 5 Olympic rings broken in half, symbolizing the interruption and cancellation of the Munich Games by the tragic events, as the memorial site states. Those rings rest on 11 segments representing the 11 slain. The majority of those broken rings are set in an upward fashion, suggesting, quote, the peaceful intent of the Olympics, a search for understanding and a hope for the future. That is all very beautiful, but for 49 years, the leaders of the Olympic Games refused to honor the lives of those Israeli athletes and coaches, merely making a passing reference in 1996. It was only last year at the Tokyo Olympics that the Olympic Committee finally honored David and the rest of his delegation during the opening ceremony. Why did it take so long? Ben Berger, David's dad, who did not live to see that Tokyo ceremony, said, quote, they didn't need people to remember the athletes because they wanted everyone to forget the incident. Instead of honoring the humanity of the slain 11, the Olympic committees of the past punted on the issue time and again because of how it might look to the world to honor the memory of the Israeli citizens. The 5 Olympic rings were chosen to represent the 5 inhabited continents of the world, the Americas, Europe, Asia, Oceania, and Africa. The rings are linked, designed to embody a unified world. As I look at the David Berger Memorial, I think about those broken rings. They were designed to represent the temporary stoppage of the 72 games, but I also view them as a representation of the brokenness in how much of the world views the state of Israel and penalizes those who support her. To me, those broken rings are a stark reminder that the world is apathetic about the fate of the Jewish people. It may not be that, quote, people love dead Jews, as the title of Dara Horn's book exclaims. It is more along the lines that they want the Jewish state simply to disappear. The world's apathy found its personification in Avery Brundage. Brundage was the 5th president of the International Olympic Committee. The 1972 Olympics were the first to be held in Germany since the infamous Summer Olympics in 1936, which also had taken place in Berlin and took place under Nazi supervision. In 1936, Brundage was president of the United States Olympic Committee. There had been calls for a boycott of the Games because of the Nazis' use of the Games as a propaganda forum, because of the racism directed at runner Jesse Owens, who was black, and Jewish athletes. Brundage would have none of it. 36 years later, Brundage was still front and center. Before the bodies of the Israelis were cold, Brundage infamously said, "The games must go on." As Boston Globe columnist Jeff Jacoby wrote, not until 4 p.m, 12 hours after the terrorist attack had begun, did Brundage finally suspend competition for the day and announce that a memorial service would be held the next morning. But at the Olympic Stadium on Wednesday, Brundage spoke only one single sentence about the Jews who had been slaughtered. We mourn our Israeli friends, victims of this brutal attack. In this month of Elul, when we look at the errors of our past, it is good to see and to hear some tshuva being made. This year, instead of apathy and ignoring the past, it was good to see Germany and Israel marking this moment. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier offered a heartfelt apology. Quote, "As the head of state of this country and in the name of the Federal Republic of Germany, I ask your forgiveness for the woefully inadequate protection afforded to the Israeli athletes at the Olympic Games in Munich, and for the woefully inadequate investigation afterwards, for the fact that it was possible for what happened to happen. Today's act of remembrance can only be sincere if we are prepared to recognize painful facts, if we acknowledge that the story of the Olympic act is also a story of misjudgments and of dreadful, fatal mistakes, of, in fact, failure. We are talking about a great tragedy and a triple failure. The first failure regards the preparations for the Games and the security strategy. The second comprises the events of September 5th and 6th, 1972, and the third failure begins the day after the attack, the silence, the denial, the forgetting. Tonight, we will not repeat that failure. We will fulfill our obligation, lizkor, to remember. Tonight, we will say their names and we will say Kaddish in their memory. Tonight, we will affirm our Jewish values that teach compassion for all humanity over competition between humanity. We are going to turn back. Ooh, Barbara, really. We're going to turn back to our prayer books. We invite the congregation to rise as the ark is open for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא סבדנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, it is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full. But as night follows day, there is the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. This week we remember Caroline Lister and Irene Miller, who have died over the past 30 days, for whom we are observing Shloshim. We remember these, the yortzites of our congregant loved ones, whom we have commemorated over this past week: Abraham H. Cohen, George Korn, Esther Erdberg, Masha Friedman, Malcolm Fromberg, Anita Gorson, Velma Keston, Dora Leopold, Albert J. Lindo, Bernard Lockman, Michael D. Marcus, William Roberts, Henya Rochelson, Florence Rosenthal, Kate Schwartz, Raymond Siegel, Bernice Silverman, Pamela Dreyfus-Smith. And we remember those Israelis who were murdered during the Munich Olympics in 1972: David Berger, Anton Fliegerbauer, Zeev Friedman, Yosef Gutfreund, Eliezer Halfin, Yosef Romano, Amitzur Shapira, Kehat Shor, Mark Slavin, Andre Spitzer, Yaakov Springer, Moshe Weinberg. And finally, we remember those who are on our permanent memorial walls here in the sanctuary, who are listed below. We join together for Kaddish Yatom, Owner's Kaddish. Invite the congregation to rise, page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chaye chon v'yomei chon v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'galal v'zman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei umaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudashah. Le'ela minko birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da milan be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael V'imru, Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved. Together we say, Amen. You may be seated. Once again, want to wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom. Want to say thank you to all of our service sponsors. Want to say particularly thank you to Marty and Lynn Mendelson, who sponsored in honor of Marty's birthday today. Happy birthday, Marty, if you are watching. To Sophie and Jason Rindler in honor of their anniversary. To Nancy Simon in honor of her sister Jane's 80th birthday. Judy Agron, Karen and Norman Leopold, Lynn Turry, and also, it seems there was a little mistake, Louise and Bob Morell, all of whom sponsored in memory of Dora Leopold. And to Louise and Bob, we apologize for that. We'll get that fixed. There is no getting around it. Next weekend, you need to be here in the sanctuary. We have an entire weekend from Friday night to Saturday night to Sunday afternoon, a weekend of music as we gear up for our High Holy Days, our Slichot weekend and Slichot concert. We'll start with Kabbalat Shabbat with our artist in residence in honor of Cantor Shulkis, our not spring Cantor Shulkis Spring Music Festival. We couldn't have it in the spring, but in the fall, that's okay. So we will have Shabbat at our regular time here. Then on Saturday night at 7 p.m., we have our patron supper and meet the artist here. Then the 8 p.m. concert featuring Grammy Award winner Joni Leeds. And then a little dessert before we head back into the sanctuary for Slichot at 9:30, as is traditional. And then finally, on Sunday, 4 o'clock, a BYOB, no, that's not bring your own beer, that's bring your own blanket so that you can sit out on, or bring your own chair, sit out on the lawn. This is a outdoor concert for everybody of all ages, and food and all kinds of fun. So join us for all of it. And it's really helpful if you would purchase your tickets in advance. It makes our lives...
Not only helpful, it's cheaper. No?
It is cheaper, yes.
So that's a good deal.
All right. Okay, just a reminder, if you want to join the Israel Mega Mission through Federation in April, you are welcome to get that information at jewishmiami.org. We are going to conclude.
Yeah, let me introduce this.
You do it, sure.
Yeah, this is always some people remark that I usually praise other composers for songs and not myself. Thank you, Rabbi, for acknowledging my mismorshir before. But the reason I want to highlight who the composer is because it's connected to a special Shabbat that is going to happen in October, on October 22nd or October 21st. We are going to have an Argentinian-style Shabbat. And I'm bringing one of my teachers from childhood and a great composer, and he has contributed with so many tunes, especially for the Argentinian services. His name is Zeev Malbergier, and he wrote many songs. Some of them I usually do, and this is one of them that I occasionally do. This song is Ve'ata Shalom, and this is a song that it says that we, or you, Ata, you are a source of shalom. You are a source, we can be source of shalom, of peace. Uveitecha shalom, also your house, it could be a source of shalom, and everything that you have is a source of shalom. And then, of course, we ask God to bring peace to us and to the people of Israel. Beautiful setting by Zev Malbergier, who, again, is going to come to Temple Sinai as part of our Argentinian style Shabbat on October 22nd.
Page 644?
Actually, it's not. No,
it's not.
No.
You're singing it.
I'm singing it. ואתה שלום, וביתך שלום, וכל אשר לך שלום. ואתה שלום, וביתך שלום, וכל אשר לך שלום. אדוני, אדוני, עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יפרך את עמו בשלום. ואתה שלום, וביתך שלום, וכל אשר לך שלום. ואתה שלום, וביתך שלום, וכל אשר לך שלום. אדוני, אדוני, עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יפרך את עמו בשלום. ואתה שלום, וביתך שלום, וכל אשר לך שלום. ואתה שלום, וביתך שלום, וכל אשר לך שלום. וכל אשר לך שלום.
We rise for Kiddush and Motzi.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו ואהבה ורצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, אותנו קידשת מכל העמים. בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.